overcooked cabbage from the hospital kitchens, and the sound of chatter, the thin wail of an ailing infant, and a mother singing a lullaby. Once outside the office, Hannah took a deep breath and knocked on the door. "Do come in." The Lady Super's mellifluous tone was deceptive, reminding Hannah of the first line of a poem she sometimes told the children. "Will you walk into my parlour?" said the spider to the fly. They had crossed swords on many occasions. She had broken a thermometer, miscalculated the amount of medicine required to mix into a poultice, told one of the surgeons that she was a nurse, not his maid. Miss Russell had hauled her over the coals for the last, saying that although Hannah had expressed the sentiments shared by others, she should have bitten her tongue. She pushed the door open and Miss Russell looked up from her desk, the furrows in her brow deepening, the careworn lines on her face, the result perhaps of the burden of running the hospital and managing everyone within it. "Nurse Bentley, take a seat." She smiled. She actually smiled, and Hannah felt a little better about being summoned from the ward. She fiddled with her cuffs, glad that she had changed them for a freshly laundered pair. Having overslept that morning, she'd put her copper-red hair up in a bun without bothering with hairpins, and long ringlets were escaping from under her cap. "This won't take long," Miss Russell went on. "Mrs. Knowles, matron at the Royal Sea Bathing Infirmary in Margate, is looking for staff. I recommended you to her, and she's keen to take you on. What do you think?" "You want me to go to Margate, ma'am?" Hannah said, surprised at the turn of events. She liked living in London, loved the hospital, and had friends here, Alice especially. "The infirmary is well thought of, and there are opportunities for advancement. At your interview you told me in no uncertain terms of the extent of your ambition. You were forward and rather presumptuous considering you'd had no experience on the wards. But I put that down to your youth and family situation." It had been difficult, Hannah recalled. She'd been about to turn 18, and her stepmother had been preparing her to attend her first ball, which was being held at a country house near Faversham. On the evening before the great event, and having enjoyed a final lesson with her dance master, Hannah had hurried to join her father, who had called her to his study. "You're late," he observed as she entered his den. By a minute, she thought, glancing at the marble clock on his desk. His mane of red hair was tousled and his face scarlet, as though he'd partaken of a drop too much Madeira before dinner. "Sit down." "Thank you, Pa." She took the seat opposite him and waited for him to speak. "I understand that you had a dress fitting earlier this week. I'll be awaiting the dressmaker's bill with interest and a little trepidation." His smile didn't reach his eyes. It never did. He was an actuary who'd been promoted to top hat at the Canterbury agency of the Wessex Union Fire Office, an expert in statistics, life expectancy and losses, a highly intelligent man who could make money but had no idea how to inspire happiness in those around him. He'd made Cook cry again that morning because the cream for his coffee had been on the turn, and she'd been unable to supply an immediate replacement. "I'll keep this brief," he went on eventually. "I have excellent news that will be of great delight and satisfaction to you. I've secured you an offer—" "I beg your pardon," Hannah interrupted, a pulse of doubt beginning to throb at her temple. "Of marriage, to my dear friend Mr. Edison." "Why do you stare at me like that? He's no stranger to our family." Pa's elderly and widowed acquaintance had been invited to the house in Dane John many times, and as Hannah had grown older, she'd come to dread his presence at dinner. Recoiling at the memory of the wiry touch of his whiskers against her cheek as he pressed up against her on the staircase, she shuddered. She'd always known that one day she would marry, but not Mr. Edison with his pale, pink-rimmed eyes, white hair and long claw-like fingernails. "You could express at least an ounce of gratitude. You caught his eye some time ago, and he's been patient, waiting for you to come of age. He's a decent man, a gentleman." "He's very old, Pa." "A significant age gap makes for a better marriage," her father said. "A younger woman has an endearing naivety about her, which makes her more likely to acquiesce to her husband."